Hi, and welcome to today's live reading from The Frontman by Lawrence Parlier, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits, Chapter 1. Breaking news. Out of London, KAXZ News has learned that multi-platinum recording artist Carrie Vance was found dead this morning in his London hotel room. Vance had just played to a sold-out crowd in London's Palladium the previous evening to kick off the European leg of his Blood and Honor World Tour. Vance got his big break in the music business when he was picked to replace original Zephyr vocalist Jarvis Gray during the band's first world tour back in 1975. Vance went on to a legendary solo career that earned him several Grammy nominations and an American Music Award for his song Solaced Moon. Details are sketchy at this hour as to the cause of Vance's death, but as information becomes available, we'll be sure to pass it along. Q101 will be playing songs from Vance's decades spanning career at the top of every hour today. Again, multi-platinum singer, songwriter Carrie Vance was found dead in his London hotel room this morning. He was 62. Chapter 1. Orange juice fell in a collapsing arch to splatter across the spotless expanse of a cool white tile floor. Its carton splashed down into the mess, falling unminded from Sarah Coop's shaking hand as news of Carrie Vance's death came across the radio. Sarah gasped, raw emotion escaping as if she'd been struck by an invisible hand. Carrie Vance, her father, was dead. "Mom, are you okay?" Sarah stood in shock, staring out of the kitchen window as one of Carrie's newer songs was played in his memory. Her heart rose in her throat. The opportunity to know her father was gone. Her own pride had robbed her of the chance. "Earth to Mother! Seriously, are you all right? You spilled orange juice all over the floor." "Huh?" Sarah looked down at the puddle. "Aw, damn it." She grabbed paper towels from the counter and bent down to the mess. "Tracy, will you go get the mop and a bucket for me?" Sarah ignored the look of indignation on her daughter's face as she dropped her spoon into her cereal bowl and slid out of her chair. The news had hit her so violently that she realized she had missed the details of the announcement. As soon as Tracy was off to school, Sarah would hit the internet and see what she could find. Sarah gazed at her daughters as she handed over the mop and bucket. Tracy's deep blue eyes and auburn hair had always been a mystery to her. She bore no resemblance to her side of the family, nor her father's. Sarah liked to believe that she'd taken after Carrie's family somehow, but she'd always been too afraid to broach the subject with her mother. Her mother would not discuss Carrie Vance under any circumstance. Sarah spent a good part of her life wondering if her mother's refusal had been born of hatred or heartache. Now that Carrie was gone, Sarah resolved to know the truth of it. "Why are you staring at me?" Tracy asked. "You're freaking me out. What's the deal with you this morning? Didn't you hear the radio? One of my favorite singers died." Tracy frowned as Sarah took the bucket and dropped it into the sink. "Yeah, so it's no reason to go off on the deep end, Mom. Geez, it's like you knew the guy." Sarah dropped her eyes. She turned to watch the water fill the bucket. It was true. Sarah only knew him as well as any of his other fans. She had spent a lifetime fooling herself into believing that was all she needed to know. Now it wasn't enough. Sarah had never told anyone that Carrie Vance was her father, and not just out of fear of her mother's wrath. Most of the people in her hometown knew, and for the most part abided by her mother's wishes and never brought it up. As she'd grown up and gone away to college, she realized There wasn't anything to be gained from mentioning it. She really didn't know him. She wasn't even sure that he knew about her. Sarah liked to believe that he didn't. It was easier that way. The thought of him abandoning her was hard to take. Yeah, well, Tracy, as you get older, you'll find yourself mourning the things that were always steady in your life as they pass. Musicians and actors you grew up with, teachers, even old buildings, homes, and cars. They just become a part of your world, and you don't even realize how much they mean to you until they're gone. Tracy crinkled her freckled nose. Teachers, really? I doubt I'm going to waste much time missing any of them. Sarah laughed, shaking her head. That girl's attitude had to have come from Carrie Vance, and she wasn't even a teenager yet. Sarah still had that to look forward to. If you say so, kiddo, but let's give it about 20 more years and then we'll compare notes. Tracy rolled her eyes and went back to the table to finish her breakfast. Sarah remembered all too well what it was like at age 12, going on 21. She was just a few months older than Tracy when Anna spilled the beans about her parentage. It was the day her whole life changed, and now, without warning, it had changed again. There would be no more second guessing. There was no going back. The opportunity to know her father had passed. All she could do now was find a place to honor his legacy and find peace with her decision. Chapter 2. Avery Clark's hangover manifested in a nerve-wracking jolt as consciousness struck once again. He was reasonably sure he was still safe at home, but as his brain throbbed wildly inside his skull, he felt far too lousy to open an eye and take a look around. He had fallen in and out of sleep, or stupor, or whatever nullifying void the universe reversed for madmen and drunks for hours. His wish for oblivion once again shattered as he passed back into reality and pain. Not that he was fatalistic or suicidal. He wasn't one of those tedious artists that extorted sympathy, yearning for death's embrace. He was just a very weary man trying to dodge the heartache of an exceptionally trying year. But for all of his concerted efforts at a well-appointed, it was working. His Zoe was gone, and now Carrie Vance was too. It was too much to bear as he lay there in tears, probing the edge of his grief. He heard the dull squeak his apartment door issued upon opening. He couldn't tell if someone was coming in or leaving, but he wasn't about to sit up and look. If somebody was breaking in with the idea of stealing his stuff, then so be it. He didn't care. He was just grateful to be home. Then, as the blurry details of the evening's events slowly rose into memory, somebody let the full shock of unadulterated sunlight blast into his apartment. It was a damned dirty, rotten thing to do. Aw, what the fuck? Avery's startled whine broke the silence. He sat up on the couch, smacking himself in the head as he tried to shield his eyes. God damn it, Jimmy, is that you? My head is already pounding. Why are you here so early? It's not early. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Jimmy frowned. Jimmy frowned as Avery yanked the blanket up over his head. Why are you sleeping on the couch? Avery squirmed around beneath the blanket, struggling to find a comfortable position. Aw, man, the mattress is all fucking wet. Why, I must have spilled beer on it when I went to lie down. Jimmy didn't reply. He could only shake his head as he looked around at the devastation inside Avery's apartment. The kitchen table was covered in ashes and marijuana crumbs, while soggy cigarette butts fell from overturned beer bottles left to spill on the floor. The chairs had all been tossed around the room, with one of them landing on the kitchen counter to smash a stack of dishes. Beneath the table, a broken bottle of Johnny Walker Red rested between a lone gym shoe and an overturned ashtray. Clothes were strung from the front door to the bedroom door, where Avery's computer monitor had shattered against the wall. Across the room, Avery sat with his head in his hands, rubbing his temple. In the glare of the afternoon sun, he looked a lot older than his 45 years. The gray in his curly brown hair seemed more prominent, but it was the deep-seated weariness in Avery's icy blue eyes that worried Jimmy. He looked defeated. "Christ, Avery, look at this place," Jimmy said. "What the hell did you do last night?" Avery frowned. Avery leaned forward, wrapping the blanket around him. "Fuck, I don't know. I was pretty well blitzed when I got here." He glanced around the room. Surprise registered on his face as he surveyed the damage. He shook his head slowly, disgusted, before dropping back against the couch. "Roll those damn blinds back a little, would you? You're killing me." Jimmy opening a couple of the windows, first to combat the stale odor of pot, alcohol, and cigarettes permeating the space. Avery sat up straighter in the muted glow and let the blanket fall to his lap. He ran his fingers through his unruly mess of hair and yawned. "I need a beer." Jimmy scowled, dropping down onto the couch beside him. Avery had always been a drinker, but since Zoe's death, it had snowballed. Now, with Carrie gone, he feared Avery had gone off the rails. "You sure that's what you need right now?" Avery shot him a snarling glance as he snatched a pack of cigarettes from the coffee table. "Positive." He lit the last cigarette, then flung the empty pack across the room. "I need to get my shit together so I can go find out what the hell happened to Carrie. Man, the stuff I've been hearing doesn't add up." Jimmy rolled his eyes. To him, Carrie Vance was just another burnt out, a rock and roller who spent as much time smoking crank as he did performing. It was no big surprise he'd checked out early, but he and Avery had been close friends for years. They genuinely cared for one another. Avery was devastated. Jimmy couldn't help feeling jealous. He and Avery had been friends since childhood, but now they didn't run in the same circles. None of Avery's partying companions wanted a cop hanging around. "I'm just trying to look out for you," Jimmy said. "I know it's been a rough couple of days. I think you need to slow down a little." "Jimmy, man, don't start with me," Avery said. "I've got enough to deal with. I know you and Carrie never really hit it off, but I'm telling you, something's wrong." "Christ, Avery, you can't be surprised by this. The man was toxic. Lucky he even made it into his 60s. Avery slammed his fist down on the coffee table with enough force to knock over another empty, lingering bottle on it at its edge. "God damn it, Jimmy, you don't understand. They're saying Carrie died of a heroin overdose. He never did heroin. He hated this shit. Carrie was a speed freak. Cocaine, crank, bennies when he could find them. The motherfucker wanted to go. Now, if his heart had exploded from doing too much speed, I'd accept it and move on. But this isn't right. I have to get to the bottom of it." Jimmy stared at Avery, irked at his demeanor. "And just how exactly are you going to do that?" Avery shook his head, rubbing his newly sore hand. "Well, I know I'm not going to get any answers out of that wife of his. I bet she's already calculating his assets. What I need to do is get a hold of some of his roadies and get their take on it." "And then what?" Jimmy asked. Look, the Brits are still working their inquiry. If there was any foul play involved, they'll find it. Just let them do their job." Avery stared Jimmy in the eye. "The Brits don't give a fuck. An overdose is an overdose. They don't care if it's heroin or aspirin. It's just another dead musician to them. I read Carol was already trying to get them to release his body so she can bring him home. It makes me wonder if that crazy bitch wasn't in on it. Jimmy sat back on the couch, rubbing his eyes. Avery was grasping at straws. Maybe you're right. You know them better than most people, but even so, nobody ever knows anybody completely. If Scotland Yard suspects foul play, they'll dig into it. I've worked with them before. They're not remiss when carrying out an investigation. Just wait until they publish their findings before you do anything rash, okay? Jimmy watched Avery's head drop. He had been through too much already. Losing Carrie was so close to the anniversary of Zoe's death was a blow he wasn't sure Avery could bounce back from. The substance abuse was only going to make things worse. Jimmy didn't want to lose him too. He laid a hand on Avery's shoulder. You need to think about your career. If you go running around making waves, it could cost you. You know how hard you've worked to get back on top. Don't do anything that will set you back. Avery pushed Jimmy's hand away. He rose off the couch and headed for the bedroom door. His gait was a little more unsteady as the room shifted around him. I don't give a damn about my career. It's not important anymore. All I want is the truth about what happened to Carrie. And by God, Jimmy, I'm gonna get it.